resources, and Instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Now, you can live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant quality sheen to gravies and sauces.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town, trying to get down.
Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
Have you had your
YT Productions?
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball, So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy, you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC, and let me say, what's up to Tennessee, stay, just tune into the HBCU Sports Lab with Dr. Cavil.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. You're in the lab with the professors, boy, I tell you. Welcome to episode 103 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports, from institutions large and small, from NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, the HBCU athletic aesthetics, to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KSWH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, none other than Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that, gentlemen, I hope all is well for you all this week. Let's get right into it. I think we have a banging show, as they might say, as we're going to mix it up here and really get into it. It's starting to get a little closer. We're in the mix with men's and women's basketball. We're at the midway point. You know, I know class for a lot of folks have just started, but we're in the business where it's about time to give out some midterm grades. Starting off in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
With that, any news of the day that you had that you want to share, Charles Bishop?
Sure thing. Let's jump right into it. Let's take a look. This comes from the SWAC office. It is the weekly basketball lineups. We'll start on the women's side as Alabama A&M's Dariana Lewis and Shemaya Ward were both honored this past week. Southwestern Athletic Conference's name Alabama A&M Dariana Lewis is SWAC Women's Basketball Player of the Week. And Alabama State Shemaya Ward is SWAC Women's Basketball Impact Player of the Week. Lewis led Alabama A&M's return to the court in a big way, as they won over Texas Southern this past weekend. She scored 19 points on 8 of 11 shooting, hauled in 15 rebounds to go with 4 blocks and a pair of assists in 32 minutes of play. That effort fueled a 73-50 victory over Texas Southern. On the season, she's averaging 15.4 points and 11 rebounds. Shemaya Ward, she recorded a double-double and narrowly missed a second one as Alabama State swept on the Texas two-step for the first time since 2013-2014 to stay as top of the SWAC standings this past week. Shamar Ward scored 20 points and grabbed 12 rebounds in Prairie View, while scoring the 12 points and grabbing 8 rebounds against Texas Southern. For the week, she averaged 16 points and 10 rebounds. So both of those ladies, kudos to them for their weekly honors from the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Great point. Yeah, it looks like the Texas two-step on the women's side is a little different there, man. They put the high heels on us coming out of Alabama.
Yes.
That was all about.
Yeah.
But Mike, what are your thoughts? What news the other day do you have?
Yeah, this is coming to us as we get deeper and deeper into the spring. HBCU baseball, Black College Nines, Elite 2021 preseason came out. 58 historically Black colleges and university players have been named to this list. And it divides the list between large division, made up of NCAA Division I schools, and small divisions, made up of those NCAA Division II, as well as NAIA and USCAA schools. So chopping the chart out, I'll start with the first team large school. You have Oscar Price, first base, Texas Southern University. Trista Garcia, Alcorn State, second baseman. Miguel Medina, Grambling State, third base. Shortstop, Wesley Reyes from Jackson State. Shortstop, Benny Bailey from North Carolina Central. Outfielders from Texas Southern and Alcorn State, respectively, Roger Coffey, Tavares Cole, and then another outfielder, Jared Weber from Florida A&M University. Another catcher, Ty Hankey from Norfolk State. Designated hitter, Luis De Leon from North Carolina Central. Pitchers, rounding out the pitching staff, Jack Nell Guzman, Alabama State. Alabama State has had the top ERA and pitching staff the last 3 or 4 years. Keep an eye on that pitching staff. Jacob Snyder from Southern University, pitcher. Josh Hancock from Florida A&M. And the other one rounding it off was Evan Gates, North Carolina A&T, which also has a very good pitching staff. Incidentally, 8 of those players are from the SWAC, and about 4 or 5 are from the MEAC. And then rounding out the small school division first team, first baseman Matt Janicek, Harris Stowe State University. Second baseman Chris O'Neill, Lane College. Third baseman Anthony Johnson, Benedict College. Shortstop Keyshawn Clark, Lane College. Travis Brown, Lane College. Utility. And then the outfielders, Don Lawson, Kentucky State. Junior Sanez, Florida Memorial. Brandon O'Connor from Benedict. Catcher Ron McGee from Tuskegee. Designated hitter Jordan Smith. And Christian Moore from Benedict College starts out the pitching staff, along with Jeremiah Hardy from Virginia State, Deshaun Hershkin from Kentucky State, and then last but not least, Jorge Baez from Benedict. Keep an eye out for Benedict and Lane. They had about 2 or 3 players on this list, so the expectations are really high for those folks as well. So that's coming to you from the Black College Nines 2021 preseason all elite team.
Man, we're just packed with all these sports. And really starting to kick things off. I know the volleyball is starting to come out with information. Well, I'll tell you, it's serious out there when you talk about women's soccer and these different programs. But let me take a bit of a pause from a historical standpoint and give the appropriate condolences. It sounds like we're doing this weekly, but I'd be remiss if I didn't go back some and do that. You have Jerry C. Johnson, who led Lemoyne College to a historic Division III national championship in 1975, passed away this past Sunday, January 24th, at the age 102 years old. So at least he got many of those quality years in. Just talking about legends in terms of that. As you think about him in terms of Fayetteville State, who learned the game of basketball from North Carolina Central's former men's basketball coach, John McClendon, who is a 2-time Hall of Famer. When you just talk about the pedigree is amazing in so many ways when you talk about what's going on. And then for a lot of people, obviously, you heard about the passing of John Chaney in so many information about those that remember him, obviously from his days at Temple University. I thought HBCU Game Day, to the credit, did a great write-up, just making the connection what people forget about his HBCU roots in terms of Bethune-Cookman College at that time, Bethune-Cookman University now, will be a member of the SWAC July 1st, for all those that are not paying attention out there. But John Chaney, his legendary days, he won a championship at Chaney University at the Division II level in the 70s. He was there at the same time Vivian Stringer was coaching the women's team, took them to a national championship that they ultimately lost. Can you imagine this, the power of those coaches and where they went in terms of legendary Hall of Fame career coaches? Cradle right there, Chaney University in Pennsylvania. He was 89 years old. The passing of John Chaney, just legendary. Man, they said he had some skills too with the ball handling. Obviously, at that time, you couldn't go pro, NBA, and stuff like that. He went and played in the Eastern League, as they would call it, amount of time. But like I said, 1978, he won a Division II championship. The brother went 232-56 at Chaney, despite an annual recruiting budget of just $700 in 1982.
Man, $700.
The Division, yeah, exactly. At the Division II level, that's like the Final Four. He lived at the Elite Eight, with him finally chopping down the nets, if you would, cutting them down, as they say, in 1978. But he went to the Elite Eight like 8 times, a couple of Final Four appearances, and a championship loss. But he lived in the championship era over that short career before he took on the Temple, took them to Elite Eight. Couldn't quite get that Final Four, but condolences to him in terms of what he's been able to do. I'm gonna pass it back to you, Charles. Just wanted to get that information out there and make sure that we paid our dues, if you would, and tip our cap, or if they say in the basketball world, dribble that ball one last time on the basketball hardwood. I just wanted to give the appropriate condolences to Mr. Coach John Chaney.
No doubt about it. You talk about a legend of the game, John Chaney. In the past year, John Thompson, now John Chaney, but like you mentioned, Dr. Cavil, it's a kudos to HBCU Game Day in terms of recognizing his tie to HBCUs in terms of his play at Bethune-Cookman. My initial foray into the Masters program was your class, History of HBCUs, where we watched a documentary that featured John Chaney in terms of his playing days at Bethune-Cookman.
ESPN documentary, Black Magic. Great point. If you hadn't seen it, go check it out. You can go to YouTube and get a large clip of it at no cost. But yeah, check out Black Magic. I use it in my class. We'll use it this year. I'm back to teaching at HBCU history, both at the undergraduate and the graduate level in our master's program. Oh man, so much good content in that class. I just can't get enough of it. I'm always excited when I get into that class. Mike, any comments that you wanted to give on John Chaney before we jump back into some other news?
No, I echo what Charles is saying. Kudos to HBCU Game Day. A number of sources that gave him his just due. I think people often associate him with coaching first, but as you alluded to, Dr. Cavil, he was one heck of a player. He was NAIA All-American, and he was the most valuable player in 1953 NAIA. But the thing that stands out, I'm sorry, is that press conference. Was it not?
Coach Calipari.
Coach Calipari, when he went off. But he was a man of deep passion. You did not mess with his players or his team. But that, honestly, that still stands out with me. I mean, he didn't play. That's for sure. So.
Great point there. Let me go ahead and pass it back to you, Charles. Any additional updates you have?
Yeah, Dr. Cavil, all my Jackson State people, they're pinging me now to remind our listening audience that National Signing Day is upon us. And
why you gotta admit that?
I'm just saying that I looked up and my inbox was full. What's going on?
Is there something going on tomorrow?
Is that
a big
Is there a special announcement or?
I don't know. Apparently, there's a school that's doing pretty well with signings and that. So I'm not going to mention that school. We don't want to get into all that, but I'll just say they're doing pretty well. So.
That's right. In terms of that, well, Mike, let me go back to you while Charles is having so much fun getting ready for signing day. We'll get him in there.
Well, a couple of my alumni are pinging me as well, and asking me about Cam Mack. Yes, and his honors. So he has been number one. He's the Box Troll National Player of the Week. He also is number one in the nation in assists at, I think, 8.3, 8.4 per game. So kudos to him as well, Mr. Cam Mack of the first place Prairie View A&M Panther basketball team, who is playing well. So Jeremiah Gambrell also is getting some honors as well for his play. So a couple of Panthers getting their just due recognition. So that's coming from Panther Nation.
Yes, but speaking of which, Southwestern Conference named their players of the week. Jackson State men's basketball player of the week is Tristan Jarrett, and Prairie View's Cam Mack is the SWAC men's basketball impact player of the week as well. So both outstanding weeks for both men in terms of Tristan Jarrett, Jackson State, and Cam Mack. You talk about getting it done. This past week, he helped the Panthers remain one of two unbeaten teams in league play for the week. He averaged 19.5 points to go along with 11 assists, added 3 steals for the week while logging 37-38 minutes respectively versus Alabama A&M and Alabama State. Matt currently ranks as one of the top assist leaders in the nation, dishing out an average of 8.4 assists per game.
I was off. I said 8.3. I was off. I said 8.3.
The Prairie View, you see both of us, Mike stepping up. We so excited. We stepping on each other. Say that again. What you say about Prairie View? In fact, let me do this. We got a special guest, and we're bringing to the stage, to the show, to the lab, none other than the Prairie View A&M University men's head basketball coach, Coach Byron Smith. So we'll have him updated as we're getting him to bring in as we're waiting to bring him in online. Let me give a shout out to some of those following us that are getting prepared for this great interview. We have Lawrence D. White, Prairie View, checking out. He's going to be excited about this interview here. We have Willie Alex Hine checking us out from Richmond, Virginia, CIAA country. Lonnie Shaw, A&T Aggies in the house, getting it done. Joe Clay is on the line. Graham Fan.
Joe Cleasy.
There you go. Franklin Nelson giving us some love in here. Texas Southern University, Keith Martin. We have Lawrence D. White again, Chris LeBlanc checking us out in here. I got a little plaque I got to show out for this. I got this as we getting Coach ready to go and gonna come straight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what we doing over here. Kay Johnson is normally in the house. Enzo Phillips, Herbert Bolden, Wendy Jenkins, Bishop, Kimberly Reynolds, Diane Weber, Roy Mitchell, Donnie G. Just to give you a shout out. Let me go on and get it to our guest here, Carlos Brown. Make sure he doesn't wait any longer. We have none other than the Prairie View A&M University men's head basketball coach, Coach Byron Smith. How's it going today, Coach Smith?
It's going well. And yourself, Dr. Cavil?
Oh man, it's good. It's good. Man, you in the lab. You don't have to be like. I need to get you like you were in the game yesterday. You got the guys fired up. Had me ready to lace them up a little bit, Coach. You're doing well down at Prairie View.
Trying to. Yeah, we're hanging in there. Yes, sir.
Hold on a second.
Had to get your PV stuff ready, huh?
I'm sorry. This momentary calls. Yeah, sir.
There you go.
Give a little bit for those that may not know. I don't know. People been asleep at the wheel on Prairie View in terms of basketball under the guidance of Coach Smith here. 5th full season, head coach Prairie View A&M men's basketball. Since assuming the reins in the program, Smith has molded Panthers hoops into the preeminent power within the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Smith has guided Prairie View to a pair of SWAC regular season championships, 2018-19, 2019-20. SWAC tournament title in 2019. My opinion, the only reason it wasn't done in 2020 because they canceled the tournament. The Panthers successfully defended the regular season crown, as we said, from 2019-2020, posting 19-13 record overall, 14-4 record. Smith led Prairie A&M out of conference with wins over Central Arkansas. Texas San Antonio had players such as Devontae Patterson, Gerald Andrus, earned first-team All-SWAC accolades, box to the row All-American selections. Patterson earned SWAC Player of the Year. Smith was named Coach of the Year, cutting down the nets. And then we get into this season. Posted a perfect 12-0, that season in the Baby Dome, extended the home winning streak to, at that time, 27 games. And then that wasn't enough, came back, currently stands second longest active streak in the nation. Let me say that one more time. Second longest active streak in the nation, totaling 31 games, and are now 7-4 overall, 6-0, which include non-conference win over Evansville and a win over the rival at home, Texas Southern University, which they end up playing this week coming up. Cam Mack is leading the nation in assists, and a lot of players are getting it done for Coach Smith. With all that said, Coach, what is leading to all this success, Coach? Stuff like this has done in Prairie View since the 60s when the program was a member of the NAIA. So, that's been a minute.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the acknowledgement. Just a lot of hard work. Just guys just, having a chip on their shoulder and just kind of and wanting to prove themselves. I think we've got several guys on our team that probably, were told that maybe they weren't good enough for some other programs or, some things just happened. But just got a good group of guys, quality young men that are working hard. And like I said, just have something to prove. So kind of just like their head coach, I think they kind of mirror my personality a little bit that, you get an opportunity to play this great game. You just want to go out and make the best of the situation. So, and that's what they've done thus far. Got a long ways to go, but so far we're pretty pleased with the result.
No doubt about it. As you said, they do take on the lead of the coach, which is giving a lot of people that may not understood the expectation, but certainly setting the scales extremely high, Coach. With that, let me let Mike Washington jump in and ask a follow-up question.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thanks, Doc. And how you doing, Coach?
Doing well, Mike. And yourself?
Pretty good. Listen, much has been said about the success of this program, but you went into the season, you lost, Patterson, you lost Andres, and people didn't know kind of what to expect from this team. And here you are, number one in the SWAC in defense, number 2 or 3 always consistently in rebounding. And it seems to be that no matter, you're able to find the talent and to form them into a very successful and aggressive team. What is your philosophy, and how do you infuse that into this team to make them so successful? You lose 2 key players last year, or the year before that, I'm sorry. And now you have this new team, and folks didn't know a lot. What do we expect from this Panther team? Can they continue the winning streak? And it seems like the defensive, especially intensity, has not only maintained, but it's gotten better. So what is it about your philosophy, and what do you infuse into these guys to motivate them to go out and to play with such intensity each night?
I think to answer the question best is obviously losing 2 of the better players that have been in the league, I think, in the last 5 to 7, 8 years that I've been in it. Devontae Patterson and Gerard Andrus, but it's also Antoine Lister and Chancellor Ellis, Williams. It was a team effort, but to lose the 2 top guys in the league, I felt obviously was difficult. But I think that's the true mark of any coach, to be able to win with a different group. I guess most coaches today probably want to model themselves after kind of Nick Saban, and you see it year in and year out. He sends 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 guys to the NFL, and they're able to stay at the top of the ladder, maybe not winning the national championship, but always there with a chance to be able to do that in the top 4, top 5 teams in the country. So I think that's a true test of any coach, true measure of any coach, that you can win with different groups. I think we've done a pretty good job of establishing our culture, and that's to play like your hair is on fire, to play with great enthusiasm, with great energy, great effort and toughness. And obviously to be mentally and physically prepared. So preparation, approach, execution, those are the 7 pillars of our program. So we've been fortunate and blessed, Mike, to be able to, find young men that just want to come in and just want to, fit in and kind of continue the short tradition that we've had. So we've been very fortunate. We've been very blessed that they believe in first and foremost, and I'll say this, and I don't want to be long-winded because I can take up all of you guys' time. I know y'all got other people to talk to, but I do believe that you have to get kids to believe in you as a man first, believe in your staff as men first. I think the buy-in comes second. So if they believe in you, then I think they will buy into what you're selling. And we've been fortunate to be able to make that connection with these guys. And it's worked out pretty well for us with this team, this current 2020-21 team.
Thanks, Coach. It's okay if you're long-winded. I've been accused of being.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he like to get a dissertation question.
Yes.
Gotta work. But with that said, take your time, Coach. We have you here. It's not often that we get to have you on and really get a chance. So we want to give those out there that want to see really behind the scene in a lot of ways of how you've been able to galvanize this team to the success. And you have a lot of fans out there from Prairie View and just generally HBCU fans that want to see the SWAC and teams do well. And so they want to understand. So we're going to give you a chance as long as you have some time. You took the time out of your business schedule. We want to get into some of the excellence of those, some of the sauce, if you would, some of the things behind the scenes in regards to what has made you successful. Obviously, I know you can't tell all your secrets because they're just that. You want the recipe for success. But what you can share with us, we certainly appreciate it. With that, let me let Charles jump in and ask a follow-up question, please.
Sure thing. Coach, I wanted to, I guess, follow up on what you were talking about with the culture, because this has been a season unlike any other where we have some games and, we'll have pauses for COVID protocols and things of that nature. But how important is it to have that culture established, especially when there's been so much roster turnover? As you mentioned, guys like Jared Anderson and Devontae Patterson, Antoine List. I mean, the starting five, probably for the past year, it's gone. And now you kind of have a whole new mix of guys, but you've been able to continue to keep rolling and things of that nature. How important has been that culture just to be established in terms of what guys' expectations are coming in?
Extremely important. It obviously would have been a lot easier had we had this team returning, the 1920 team. Guys, kind of knowing, how things are supposed to go and the expectations. So it would have been a lot easier for every team in college basketball to have 6 or 7 or 8 guys coming back as opposed to leaving. It has been very challenging, but I said it from the onset, guys, that the teams and the people that are able to make the adjustments. I mean, that's what life's all about. You never know what's coming your way. We talk all the time about tomorrow, what I'm gonna do next month, but you know what, man plans and God laughs. So, I've just been the kind of person that I just say, hey, you know what, if we're able to make the adjustments and stay tough and focus on certain things, and the only thing that we've been able to, that we can control has been our attitude, our effort and our execution on a daily basis. Everything else is just kind of up in the air. When we're going to play, if we're going to have a stoppage or we're going to have a positive test. So it has been challenging. But I tell my kids all the time, and we live by this, is, tough times don't last, but tough people do. But you're able to go and deal with some adversity. And it's really preparing these young men for manhood. It's bigger than basketball. Basketball is a great platform that I've been blessed to be able to be able to reach young people. And these young men have answered the call. It's been a lot of uncertainty. You get 18, 19-year-old guys, a lot of uncertainty. But the one thing I will say, they've attacked the work. They've tackled it. They have focused on what they can control. And every day they've been on the court, they've worked extremely hard. And here's another thing I have to say is that I've told them that you have to play each game and each practice like it's your last, because with this pandemic, it could be. So I owe them a lot of credit. I'm really proud of them. I'm very thankful that they've hung in there and that they've continued to work hard each and every day to be the best that they can possibly be, not only on the court, but off the court as well. Even with the academic situation has been tough as well. You get young people that are used to, I think everyone's a creature of habit, going to class every day, going and sitting in class and being, around, their fellow students and the professors. Now they have to go and learn remote, and that hasn't been very easy. So these young people have been challenged. But I think the good part about it, I think that they've answered the call, and I think this has been a great preparation for the real game, which is life. So I'm pleased that they've done well, and got a long way to go, but I am proud of the effort and and the focus that they've demonstrated. And we just hope that it continues.
Sure thing. Thank you, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Certainly. With that, Coach, I know very spiritual in a lot of ways, confident in yourself and what you bring to the table, but you're humble with it. Can you talk about that framework and maybe who have been some of the individuals that you follow or pattern yourself after in regards to putting what together now as Coach Smith?
Well, I tell you, it's not really one in the coaching profession that I've really patterned or modeled myself after Dr. Cavil. But growing up, I was a big time Julius Erving, Dr. J fan, and I tell you why. My mother introduced him to me at a young age, and she said, "Hey, this guy's a heck of a basketball player, but just watch how he carries himself, how articulate that he is, how he does interviews, how he deals with people and things like that. He was just a class act." So that was my hero. That was my hero growing up. And he's still one of my heroes. And I had an opportunity. One of the greatest days of my life. I had an opportunity to meet him, and he shook my hand, and I sat right next to him at an event, and I was like a kid in a candy store. Like like a Saturday morning as a little kid. I was so excited and so happy. And I was in my late 20s, so I was old enough to not to act like a kid, but I was just so giddy. So he was someone that's had a tremendous impact on my life. And secondly, probably the total opposite. We're talking about humility, and I appreciate that kind comment. But another one of my heroes was Muhammad Ali. Was just the opposite in terms of humility, but the confidence. But again, you start talking about adversity. You start talking about focusing on things that you can control. He was dealt a really tough hand. He brought some of it on himself, but he handled it. And this is the one athlete that not only here in the country, in America, but this was a guy that was an icon that changed the world. So the confident part I definitely got from him. I don't think I'm very pretty like he was. I don't talk about my good looks like he was. I'm not as good looking as he was. But someone that taught me the importance of believing in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, who else will? So that's where the confidence comes from. And then the third person, and probably the first person, was my mother. She's just instilled in me to want to be something in life and to want to be someone. And obviously I got introduced to the game of basketball at a young age, but just that desire to be someone. I'm from Bossier City, Louisiana, and a lot of people never heard of it. And it's nothing exciting about it. When I left Bossier City, they went into a depression. So I'll let you know how bad they're doing. If I was the person that was a shining light, but she taught me to and instilled in me values and good core values and work ethic, and to treat people right. And you get more bees with honey just being nice to people and things like that. So I think the respect end of it, and just wanting to be something, to make something of myself, I got that from my mother. So I would say Willie Blackshire, Julius Erving, and Muhammad Ali are the people that were instrumental in my life and had a huge impact on the man that I am today.
Thank you for sharing it, Coach. If you don't mind, we'd like to take a quick break and then bring you back maybe 5-10 minutes to close out the interview. But as we're going to that break, one of the followers online asked that you think about this, and if you're willing, when we come back, to give us this. If possible, please share any of the motivational quotes or sayings that you use to inspire your student athletes during a crisis. And she just wanted to say that she agrees basketball is a vehicle, #JustWork. So your comments are resonating with people. We'll take this quick break, and if you don't mind, we'll come back and allow you to answer that if you would consider. This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We'll be right back as we will continue with our interview with Prairie View A&M's University head basketball coach Byron Smith. Two-time champion, I may add.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We're coming back in, finish up our interview. We have those listeners out there live watching us now, all the folks in the lab, including our listeners from 12:30 a.m. KSOH, The Source, listening to us in the greater Houston area behind the Hall of Famer, Radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper. With that, back to our interview with Prairie View A&M University head men's basketball coach, Coach Byron Smith. As we left off, we asked you to think about a motivational quote, a saying that you use to inspire your student athletes during a crisis.
You know, it's something that I share. It's every day, you know, and it's pretty simple and it's very cliche, but tough times don't last, tough people do. You know, I've said that and I say that all the time to my own children, to anyone that'll listen, and that's just true. You know, you're not going to have heaven on earth. That's another one. You're going to go through some things on this earth, but it's if you handle it the right way, it's preparing you, for the real test in life, which is manhood. You know, and these guys are going to be fathers. They're going to be husbands. Husbands. They're going to be fathers one day. And people are going to be looking to them as they're looking to people right now for guidance and for direction. So, we have a lot of, some soul, some real good talks at the end of every practice, so those are some of the things that I share with them. And I think it's starting to resonate with them. And I see a, difference in them and just their approach each and every day. So if nothing else, I mean, just to focus and really get them to, be tough and to be able to stand the test of time. And I think they're heading in that direction. I feel really good about this group and past teams that we've had as well. So I feel really good about what we've done with these guys.
Well, I ship it back to Charles. I asked a follow-up question and going back to him. Chuck Hunt says, Bossier City, Louisiana, small world. It's across the Red River from Shreveport, Louisiana, a great high school basketball program in Bossier City. It's the Bossier City High School Bearcats boys basketball team. So, see, I told you, small world. We got folks out here that recognize, you think it's a small place, but you got fans and followers that recognize a lot going on. So just wanted to share that a little bit with you, Coach. You're
yes,
in
sir.
the lab. We got some of the best fans out here now. Charles, go ahead and follow up.
Yes, Coach, talk to us a little bit about Cam Mack for those of us who have not seen this player play during this season, but he's one of the top players in the nation in terms of distributing the ball. But talk about his play and how he has been able to come in and accept the culture and really propel this basketball team.
Like you say, Cam is, one of the top playmakers in the country at any level. Obviously, he transferred in from the University of Nebraska, where he was all conference last year. He's one of the best point guards in one of the best conferences, probably the best conference in the country last year. Had some maturing to do. It didn't really work out for him there. I think it was a mutual deal that, he needed to, find another spot. He wanted to get back closer to home. He's from Austin, which is right up the road from us at Prairie View. Mother had some health challenges, really, really close to his family, and felt like he needed to be closer to home. But Cam has been phenomenal for us. We've had him a short amount of time. He's only played 8 games, but he's been our top player since he became eligible while he was waiting to be granted his eligibility as a transfer. The NCAA, made all transfers immediately eligible. So he was able to join our program. He's just a natural basketball player. He's got some things that you can't teach. He's a young man that I think has an opportunity to play at the next level. I think, the thing with Cam is that, really trying to impress upon him to, get in the weight room a little bit more, you know what I mean? Spend a little bit more time, in the gym. Things just come so natural for him. And you get athletes like that, that things just come easy to him. But he's a young man, I think, that's got a chip on his shoulder. He's had some naysayers out there. Some people have kind of questioned some things about him. And again, I think it was just more about maturity. But he's hit the ground running for us. If you haven't seen him play, he's definitely worth the price of admission. He does some great things. He's a leader of our team. He's a little bit flashy. He likes a little bit of extra mustard on his hot dog, if you will. You guys will probably see that on Saturday night. I try to tell him, damn, when you're doing things like this, man, and you celebrating and things like that, you gotta act like you've been there before. Act like this is not. So when you celebrate sometime, guys, people are looking at you that don't really know you and say, well, man, he's pretty excited. Maybe that's his first time doing this, or maybe he's never played this well. when you have that type of a reputation, people are coming to see you do that. So act like you've been there before. We got another saying that I've used with my guys. It's called KISS. You know, we say, keep it simple, sunshine. So we have to continue to tell Cam, just keep it simple, make it plain, future, if you will, and not to draw too much attention to yourself. But he's an outstanding basketball player. He's becoming more of an understood young man. He's improving, he's maturing, and I think he's got a bright future. And we're really excited to have him up on the hill.
Sure thing.
No doubt about it. Great points to make. Let me go back to you, Mike, with a follow-up question there.
Yeah, Coach. Getting back, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago losing, players. So now players like Patterson, Andres, Lister. Now you look at it. Now you have Mack, Daniels, Gambrell. It's almost a policy of next man up. So what's your approach to recruiting? What are some of the challenges, and what kind of folks do you look for when you're recruiting? Do you dive into the AAU ranks, or what's your approach overall?
By any means necessary. The first and foremost is they have to be tough kids, because this is probably the nicest that I am all day long when I'm on this Zoom with you guys. Dr. Cavil knows I get out pretty good, but it's all tough love. You rough them up a little bit, but you love on at the end of practice. And I always make sure that these kids know I care about them before they leave the practice floor. Or the game, it doesn't matter. You always let them know that, because these kids, some of them can be fragile at times and things like that. But the next man up. I think everyone has adopted that in professional sports, college. You're not a smart coach if one player defines your team. You haven't done a really good job in recruiting. Have to be able to. Cam Mack goes out for Texas Southern for whatever reason. I can assure you there's going to be someone there that's maybe not better than him, but they're not going to be, down at the bottom. I mean, we've done a good job at being able to recruit, and we recruited this year for depth. This is the deepest team that we've had, and it's not a one-trick pony. As dynamic as Cam Mack is, and Dr. Cavil and guys, he's pretty dynamic at times.
Yeah.
But
Darrell Roberts coming off the bench. I'm serious. Big time.
Darrell Roberts could probably start any other program.
Absolutely.
I think, and he probably could be starting for us, but we like that dynamic of him coming off the bench. Jeremiah Gambrell is a young man I've known since the 6th grade, being down at Fundy Rec Center. Back when I was down there shooting my set shots, I got a chance to meet him and work with him a little bit. So I've watched him grow as a person. He's a dynamic guard as well. He's someone that I think was Box to Road Player of the Week this past week. And so, we've got depth, and we've got guys on any given night can get 20 points a game for us. But I think the beautiful thing about it is that they're not trying to get it at the same time. If one guy's not scoring, the next guy will step up, next man up, just like you say. And I just think that's smart coaching, to be able to have guys that you can bring 2 or 3 guys off the bench that'll just do just as well as the starters. And that's kind of how we wanted this thing to be. And that's kind of how we want this deal to, moving forward, how we want to, have our program to have multiple guys that can step up and that can have a great impact on any given night.
Certainly. As we
Thank you, Coach.
And certainly want to be respectful of your time. Did want to follow up. One of the followers did say they used the terminology KISS, but they said they didn't use sunshine. They use it different.
Hey, guys, trust me. I don't
use it when they stupid.
No. Not one of my Christian moments, Dr. Cavil. Absolutely.
Let's say Rev Cosby wouldn't like that.
Absolutely, no doubt.
So as you talked about the team, besides just Mac, but the team is something to see. Obviously, COVID-19, we got to be respectful and certainly understand that. I've heard you go on different programs and really implore people to be safe and take care of other folks. But I did want people to understand that you can come to Prairie View. It's better if you do the season tickets. You can do walk-up, but be mindful there is just the maximum capacity to let in. And so that's something to consider to take that drive. So call ahead, get your tickets, but it is worth going down there. You have the luxury this week, though. The game will be on ESPNU against Texas Southern University. Talked a little bit about that matchup. And so the last thing I'll ask you before I give you a chance to kind of share some thoughts, or you might want to put it all in together. What are your thoughts going into Texas Southern University rival? You had some really solid success against their program, lifting Prairie View, not only in terms of winning championships against their rival, because while it kind of went back and forth for a while, Texas Southern ascended back to where they were over a period of time. And now it looks like Prairie View is getting a little more back in the mix, a little better handed that. Thoughts going into this matchup this Saturday of how you're going to be successful. And last thing, when I talk about this big picture of this, you've been able to do it in different styles. When we went to SWAC championship in Birmingham, you got it done. The way that your team did the mid-range was just amazing to me. You've always had the tough defense, but now you seem to be doing a little more on the defensive side. Now you got a different type of player that leads the league in assists. So you're able to do it in so many different ways. Talk about what is going to be necessary to be successful against Texas Southern and the rest of the season.
Well, first and foremost, we're really excited about the matchup with Texas Southern. It's the most important game to us because it's the next game. And I know it's cliche, but that's really how we feel about it. I'd be remiss if I didn't say I love Texas Southern first and foremost. I went to school at the University of Houston, so I've met so many people over the years, the people that are yourself being there. I love the place. I mean, it's I've spent a lot of time over there. So the rivalry takes on a life of its own. You get more people in their 80s and 90s that get out and go for a walk and walk over to the HPE building or walk over to the Baby Dome. They won't come out all year to watch the game, but for some reason they come out and watch that game. We get excited about that.
That's the truth.
Is obviously the place that helped me pay my bills for a while. I worked over there for a little bit, and
that's right.
Just some phenomenal people that are over there that I have good relationships with. One of my mentors in life, and he probably doesn't like for me to call him a mentor because it makes him feel old, is Mike Davis. That guy has helped me more than any coach in the country, in the world. And I lean on him. We talk not a lot, but if I have a question or something that needs to be answered or whatever, he's probably the first guy that I go to. And I know so many people at the professional level, the college level. Mike Davis is just someone I've just connected with, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for. One of the best coaches in the country, at any level. That had some significance. The fact that he was in my mind, the last 10, 15, 20 years, the best coach of this league, maybe that's ever, had in our league. So that has some significance. Believe it or not, guys, and I don't want to make this too big of a deal, but I've won at every SWAC school in the conference. I've won on their home court as a head coach, except Texas Southern. I've yet to be able to win a game as the head coach.
You heard it here. You heard it.
Well,
and people at Prairie View, with all the success we've had, guys, they know that. I mean, and unfortunately for me, guys, it's part of my performance evaluation. I always get a negative mark on that at the end of the year with the AD and Coach Pete and all of that. So I'm praying, guys. I need to make something happen this time around because I want to keep my job at Prairie View, but they definitely are excited about it. Everybody's fired up about it. I think it's a great game. I'm really appreciative that Dr. McClellan was able to maneuver and work ESPN to make this game a feature game as opposed to a Monday night deal. That it's really important, and I think the world is going to be entertained. I think it's going to be two great teams. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Johnny Jones. Johnny Jones is a Louisiana guy. I'm biased. I was coming out of high school, and he was the assistant coach at LSU. And I led the state of Louisiana in scoring, Dr. Cavil. But LSU didn't recruit me. And I told Johnny Jones, I said, you did two things that were super duper significant. One was positive, one was negative. I said, you recruited Shaquille O'Neal, which was huge, but you didn't recruit Byron Smith, which was huge. So I tease him all the time about that. That I think you left a good one on the table. So we laugh about that all the time. But he's a phenomenal human being. I think he's an excellent basketball coach. I think he stands for the right thing. I think he's a great example to young African-American males, just in terms of his image and how he carries himself. And so I'm really excited about that matchup as well. But again, it's going to be great. Looking forward to it, excited about it. Fan base is excited about it. Our players are really excited about it. I think the first time around they were, coming off of COVID a little bit. So I'm not sure that they were probably at full strength. I think that they are now. So I think it's going to be a heck of a contest. And we're excited about it. We're preparing hard for it. And just really looking to come out and give the fans a great show. Two great institutions that stand for something in the world, not just in terms of African Americans, stand for things. Some great people have come out of these institutions that are leaders in our world today. So I'm privileged, I'm blessed, I'm thankful to be a part, of this rivalry, and just looking forward to going out and just doing the best that we possibly can to make people feel good about being at the game and making people feel good about graduating from these two great institutions. It's a fun event. Really looking forward to it, guys.
Well stated.
That's a great word. I think Charles has a quick one he wants to get in there. So go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I mean, Coach, that was a great statesman sort of statement in terms of talking about Prairie View, Texas Southern. But this is your Muhammad Ali moment. Has the balance of power shifted from Houston out west down 290 down to Prairie View?
Absolutely. Prairie View is the greatest of all time. We're pray. We're this, we're that. There's no way they're gonna be staying with us. We're gonna take them out in 40 minutes. It's gonna be a TJ. No, God. I mean, it's. I guess right now, I guess you can say it's kind of tilted a little bit. I won't say shifted, just kind of tilted a little bit because if we don't come out and we're not prepared, they can beat us very, very easily. They're talented enough. They're disciplined enough. They're well coached. They got talented guys. I mean, they've got tradition and they got the home court, and I'm pretty sure with whatever the percentage of people that are allowed to be there, it's going to be at that number. So, it's a good event. I think it's good for the city, even though we're in some trying times. I think it's going to bring smiles to a lot of people's faces. And that's what you need to be about right now. 2020 was very difficult, very difficult year. I mean, more people have transitioned. People I've known personally, sports figures, actors, actresses, entertainers. I mean, it's just been a very difficult time. So right now, anything that you can do to bring a smile to someone's face and to make your time around someone beneficial to that person, I think that's very, 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 very important. I think it's needed. And we're just agents, right now, for joy, if you will, and so we take it very, very seriously. And that's why I talk to our guys about sportsmanship. If a guy's down on the ground, man, pick him up. Pat him on the back. Be respectful to coaches and fans, and no matter how much they're going to heckle you, because they're going to get on you at Texas Southern, you wink at them or you smile at them, or yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, because they're going to get on me too. I mean, they get on me about my suit. They get on me about my haircut. They get on me about my shoes. They're on me about every single thing. But hey, you know what? A smile. And hey, you know what? My mother told me a long time ago, guys, you're not talked about, you're not thought about. So, that's another thing I live by. But again, it's a great event. Glad that we were fortunate enough to be able to head it in a direction where we can play the game. Obviously, we've got 4 or 5 more days, and we got to continue to practice safe protocols and stay healthy, follow the protocols. And then by the grace of God, we can get out there on 7 o'clock on Saturday night to put on the show for the city of Houston. We're really excited about that.
No doubt about it. With that, Coach, we won't hold you up. Really took a lot of your time. Appreciate it. Really giving us some insight, update, and in-depth information. We'd love to have you back as you close out the season. We know you have a lot of work and a lot of focus. So when your time permits, we want to bring you back up and just get an update. A lot of our followers are really excited about the words that you share with us today. So I think it's going to go further than you ever imagined. That'll do it for our interview with Prairie View University's men's basketball coach, Coach Byron Smith, 2-time champion, including the SWAC tournament, NCAA appearance. Continue to get it done in so many ways. Really more important than that, the builder of men in so many different ways. So I thank you, Coach, for your time. Thank you for what you're doing for Prairie View University, HBCUs, and just colleges in general. Really tremendous amount of work. We appreciate you.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. Go Panthers.
There you go. Go Panthers. With that being said, Charles, you can say it.
Yeah, Charles, what's up?
Panthers. Go Panthers.
Come on, Charles.
I'm waiting on my cue. Go Panthers.
Flag on the play. Flag on the play.
Man, I tell you, let's see, Coach. Jackson State, Texas Southern University, put it on and just smile at Charles. Smile at Charles.
Gotcha. Yes, sir.
Oh,
That
wow.
was good for the interview. Thanks for being a good sport with us, Coach. With that, let's get into the poll ranking. As we know, we do. I don't know what the other polls out there, but I will say this. We continue to have Prairie View University ranked number one. I know that doesn't count for much now, but just letting you know, we have you ranked number one on the men's side. So we'll get in a little bit of that mix in terms as we get back into it. Let's look at the women's top 25 teams. Top 5 teams in terms of HBCU women's basketball. And check us out. We're going to be seeing us doing some data analytics, going inside the numbers. Look for that show to be coming soon in terms of how we put in the mix in a lot of ways with that information. Also, just continue to look at us as we look to partner up and get some of that information in there. So with that said, as we start to close up, top 5 women basketball team. See what your thoughts are on this. Not changes in the top 5, little arrangement here and there. Do have some changes in terms of receiving votes. You have Alabama A&M Bulldogs sitting at 5-2, 3-1. Grambling State Tigers sitting at 6-5, 5-2, and the Southern Jaguars bounced back a little bit, 5-8, 5-2, but they're still not into that top 5. Top 5 programs: Morgan State Bears sit at 7-2 and 4-1, ranked number 5. They stay at that spot. Number 4, Jackson State Tigers, 7-5 and 6-1, 2 first place votes, 75 points. They increased the points, but couldn't quite jump up. They stay at number 4, bringing us to number 3. Howard Bison sit at 8-2, 4-1, 2 first place votes, just 77 points. So real close for that 3 and 4 position. That's Howard drops from the 2 spot. But number 2, Alabama State Hornets, they move up 7-1, rebounded from that loss they had a couple of weeks ago, taking 2. State of Texas, as you talked about early on, Charles, 2 first place votes, 84 points, moving up a spot, keeping it number 1. North Carolina A&T State Aggies, 7-1, 4-0, the only undefeated team in conference rates. We'll see how much that lasts. They're at 91 points, remain at number 1. Let's go with you, Charles. Any comments, questions in terms of the top 5 teams in the poll? Do you like the top 5 teams in there, or would you like to see them in a different order? Somebody else should be in the mix.
I like the top 5 teams. I like where they are. I tell you, Jackson State has been dominant lately in terms of blowing out teams. I think that they're every bit a number 3, if you will. But I like what you have this week. North Carolina A&T, they are deserving of number 1. Alabama State with the head-to-head victory over Jackson State. They're deserving of where they are. And I'm going to say this now. Watch out for the Bulldogs. I know they're coming. Dariana Lewis is back. So, that gives Alabama A&M another scorer, another rebounder that can really give teams problems. And the thing that jumps out at me with these top teams here, they beat you up on the boards. They really, you take a look at the statistics, they really get after it on the boards. Alabama State, Jackson State, Howard, they all rebound very well. And if I'm not mistaken, they each has a player that is averaging a double-double as far as points and rebounds.
It will be interesting. I like that about Alabama A&M. They're moving. Morgan State is playing today. They get it in. It's going to be interesting. You've seen not the fluidity of the MEAC teams playing every week, which I think is going to be interesting to see whether they either keep winning or can they even get played, because not playing is going to start affecting them as well as the SWAC teams play if they continue to win. Any thoughts in the top 5 for you, Mike?
No, I kind of agree for the most part with what CB has said. I do think Jackson State is one of the best performing teams right now. And I think probably if there's anything, I like the 5 that you have up here. I would switch. I would move Howard down and move Jackson State up. I think the best teams right now are A&T, North Carolina A&T, Alabama State, and Jackson State, with Howard following close behind. I kind of look at their strength of schedule and I kind of factor that into my judgment. But I'd like the type 5, but I say Jackson State. In the SWAC, it's a Jackson State, Alabama State show, and then North Carolina's on a 1,000,000-game winning streak, and so
Yeah.
it's hard to repudiate that. So
Yeah.
I just moved Jackson State up a little bit because they're playing awfully well.
Yeah, I think Howard Bison with just 2 losses overall, while they're getting that slight edge, but they're going to have to get on there and play a little bit. I think what took it, give you a little insight, what gave Alabama State advantage in terms of looking at all this, they got the benefit of the fact that they had 3 wins.
Yep.
Over, because the delayed game was not counted in the previous week. It was pushed to Wednesday. You might see the same type of factor with Morgan State, though, this week, as they are going to essentially have a chance to play 3 games because they played today, which was not factored in the ranking. But I can give you a final on that. They beat up on Coppin State 72-43. So they're making a statement, and they'll have 2 this weekend. So it'll be interesting to see how that factors in, since you have such a weird type of schedule. Some teams not playing. Some teams end up playing 3 games in a week. Some other teams are just playing 1. How is all that going to phase out? And it'll be interesting to see week to week what it looks like. But as you get closer to the end, are you going to get a little more separation that you start to talk about, with Jackson State certainly being arguably one of the top teams? It might just be more about timing right now in terms of schedule week to week, how that flows. The other thing that's going to be interesting when they get a chance to play Alabama State at home.
Yeah.
You'll get a little bit of payback, because you also have the fact, while Alabama State lost and was a different team, they have that edge of having that win over Jackson State. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how all that plays out, just to give some people some backdrop of what this looks like. Let's jump into the men's side. A new team in the top 5, so it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. You have receiving votes, Hampton Pirates 7-8, 6-4. You have Morgan State Bears 9-4, and you have Southern Jaguars sitting at 4-6-4 and 2 overall receiving votes. Alabama A&M receiving votes, but they dropped out 4-2, 2-2. So they're the team that drops out. Let's see who jumps in the top 5. At number 5, Coppin State Eagles 6-10, 5-2, 52 points. They dropped all the way from number 2 last week after a loss. Again, they played Morgan State today. That game is going on now, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, to see if it affects them. But they had the benefit that they only had 1 loss, and that was because they only got to play 1. So we'll see what's going on. That game, Morgan State, Coppin State, hasn't started yet, but we'll see a little more. Central is playing their back-to-back. Central got back into action yesterday, and you talked about this previously, to kind of keep your eyes. It seems that they're playing again. Well, just what? They really pounded South Carolina State.
Yeah.
At halftime, they're losing. South Carolina State is winning 37-31, to give you a immediate update on that score. Got another half, so we'll see what the Eagles are going to do, as they pound them yesterday, but they're fighting a little bit today. We'll see what that means. Back to the poll. Number 4, I want to do a little spin of surprise. None other than Jackson State Tigers. 4-6, they're 4-0 in the conference race. Over the next couple of weeks, they're going to get a chance, depending on what takes place this week for them, what takes place for Prairie View, Texas Southern. Could be interesting as that game starts to loom in terms of that matches. They didn't play the first half. We'll get a chance to see what that looks like moving forward. You also have the fact that they had 64 votes, so their team jumping in, as I said, number 3. Norfolk State Spartans sitting at 9-6, 4-3. 1 first place vote, 77 points. They had a win and a loss last week in a little bit there. So they're sitting, moving up a spot. Bringing us to the number 2, North Carolina A&T State Aggies sit at 8-9, 4-0, undefeated in conference play. 1 first place vote, 86 points. They move up a spot from number 3. Brings us to number 1. Prairie View A&M Panthers sit at 7-4, 6-0. 7 first place votes. They gained 2 first place votes, 101 points, but they remain at number 1 in week number 5. What are your thoughts in the top 5 teams in the poll this week for you? What are your thoughts on that? Mike?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the first 2 for sure, especially with North Carolina A&T. They had a solid win over FAMU. So I think they showed really well. I think you watch out for Jackson State. I agree that they can move up. They're playing well. Whereas the Norfolk State, they're sitting in third place in the north of the MEAC. So I wonder how long they can hold that spot. So we'll see. But for the most part, I like the 5. Maybe I think you'll see maybe Jackson State gain some traction as well in the coming weeks. We'll see.
No doubt about it. Charles, top 5 program. Your Jackson State Tigers get some love. 4 straight wins. I know you have some concerns sometimes in terms of who they play, but you also wanted to give them some credit in terms of the fact they are undefeated in conference play. So what are your thoughts in terms of the ranking? And you can sneak a little something in there in terms of the Tigers as well.
Sure. I mean, hats off to Coach Wayne Brent in terms of what they've been able to get done with this great start in conference play, going 4-0 thus far. When you take a look at Jackson State going back over last year, they won 13 of 14 out of their last 17 games. So they have been one of the better teams in the conference. They've solidified themselves, if you will, in the kind of the upper echelon of the conference. We know Wayne Brent's teams are going to always play defense. But they're scoring the ball a lot better this year. You have Jonas James, Tristan Jarrett. He's a SWAC player of the week this past week. But these guys can put the ball in the hoop. So I think that goes a long way. And then they have the rim protector and Javius McKinnon. So they are a very solid ball club, and they're very deep and talented ball club as well. So I think you do have to keep an eye on Jackson State in terms of what they're able to do. They have gotten victories thus far over Mississippi Valley, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Grambling. So I think when we kind of start taking a look at in Alabama State, once we kind of start taking a look at the Jackson State and their matchups against a Prairie View or Texas Southern, the COVID protocols caught them with the Texas two-step, so they weren't able to make the trip out here to Texas. But once those games start kind of piling up, we can really get a definitive look and see if is Jackson State for real.
Yep, no doubt about it. That'll do it for us. But I'd like to take this time to sneak this out there. We talked about this a little bit last week, and we're going to come back to it. So give people another week to make sure they go read the article, BCSN, Saban Follows Path of HBCU Legends, Dynasty Makers. A lot of people had some interest in that. We're going to see if we can bring Brian Forfoot on to talk about it a little bit and get the framework of how he came with the article. And I got to share some writing opportunity with him. So really excited about it. Give you the intro in that. When the clock hit 0-0 in the last quarter of the college football playoffs, national champion game, Alabama head coach Nick Saban won his 6th national championship at the school's 7th overall, his 14th season in Tuscaloosa, becoming, in many eyes, the greatest college football coach of the modern era and possibly the history of college football. Does the history include all football programs, i.e. historically black college programs? More on that later. So get into that. And we really get into the legendary coaches. We look at a lot of them, Jake Gaither, Eddie Robinson, in terms of just giving you some ideas, Billy Nix. And then we go in a little deeper, some hidden gems that you may not think about in terms of, and we're moving away from that around Mushburg. We're talking about that Greensboro 4 is the way we're going to talk about those top 4 programs. The Greensboro 4, the monument there in North Carolina. Who would be your top 4 coaches? So we have a lot to pick from on the football side. And the threshold is really tight when you talk about it. We're talking about a minimum of 6 Black College National Championship. Think about that. 6 Black College National Championship. And there's a lot of coaches that you could argue that should be in there in terms of Jackson State coaches, in terms of what they've done over a period of time. Record is something that you can look at, what they did against their rival. Rob Broadway is another example. He's done it at multiple programs. Another legendary great coach that people may think that he should be a part of the Greensboro 4 in terms of that monument. What are your top 4 coaches? But ours looked at, we gave you 3, and then we gave you a list to look at in terms of who should be an additional. And the cut line was 6 Black College National Championship. Boy, that's a high cut line. Just think about it.
Yeah.
Do that threshold. And that lets you know some of the talent in dynasties. And these were coaches who were doing it at a time when they had so many different restrictions among them and didn't have necessarily the influence of the financial support to get it done. And again, that's not to take anything away from anybody in the modern era, just to let you know the different framework of what that means. That'll do it for us. More on that later. Really would ask you to go check that out. Want to get your thoughts and want to get in a little more discussion about that as we head into the spring football season. We're going to continue to give you some updates on basketball as it's churning away. As we said, we're getting into that midpoint. So we're starting to see, to some degree, who are the cream of the crop. Maybe a little more time is needed than generally speaking because of COVID-19, but you're at least getting us some indication, giving you a chance to look at it from the women's side, the men's side. And then you got the updates with the women's soccer starting to take place, volleyball in the mix, see what Prairie View's doing over there on their side.
Baseball.
Baseball
yeah.
starting to get up there, gave you some indication of the wood and the ping of the bats on that side. But keep up with us because we're going to keep you all the latest and greatest. Thank you for listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. Some call me the Dean of HBCU Sports with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop. We had a great interview with Prairie View A&M University head men's basketball coach Byron Smith and what he's been able to do with his short period of time, but all the success in terms of what's going on there in that big matchup against Texas Southern University, the rival matchup. Going to be fascinating in so many different ways. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop every Tuesday right here at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. Again, that's Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. Want to shout out to all the followers out there in the lab that continue to make us great, because without you all, we are nothing. So we want to say we appreciate all the love that we have in terms of what you give us, because you give us so much, and we try to make sure we give it back. With that, dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Mike?
Lecture.
Dismiss.
It was a monumental game for A&M and Tampa. It was a monumental game. Somebody had to lose, and thank God it was them this time.
We knew it was going to be a battle. Look at Jake Aves' record. 202 and 36, I think, some off-the-wall figures.
And nobody would play him because they didn't want to take a chance of getting beat. But the truth of it is,
over 46,000 tickets. Blacks were sitting in the east stands. Whites were sitting in the west stands. And the score wound up 34-28.
The only thing we proved that we wasn't inferior, that we were not inferior, and we were not afraid.
For one night, for 160 minutes, we was better than them.